The distress signal traveled through the void for 300 years before it found anyone listening. It was an old message, encoded in mathematical patterns that spoke of desperation. The Galactic Council had sent it during their darkest hour, when the Devourers came from beyond the rim and began consuming everything in their path. The Council never expected an answer. By the time they sent the signal, most of their worlds were already ash. The few surviving species had fled to the core systems, building massive shields around their last planets. They waited for death, knowing no one would come. They were right about one thing. No one from their part of the galaxy came to help, but someone else did. The signal reached Earth's outer listening posts on a cold Tuesday morning. The technician on duty, a man named Tom, almost deleted it as space noise. He had been working the night shift for 5 years, and in all that time, he had never seen anything but cosmic radiation, and the occasional pulsar dot. This was different. Tom ran the signal through the computers 3 times before he believed what he was seeing. It was artificial. It was intelligent. And it was asking for help. Within an hour, every major government on Earth knew about the signal. Within a day, the United Nations called an emergency session. Within a week, humanity made a decision that would change everything. They would answer the call. The thing about humanity was simple. They were new to space, barely 200 years past their first moon landing. They had no friends out there among the stars. No allies, no trade partners. They were alone, building their ships and stations in the dark, wondering if anyone else was out there. Now they knew. And someone needed help. Admiral John Blake stood on the bridge of the Earthship, defiant, and looked at the fleet assembled around him. 50 warships built in secret over decades, designed for a war humanity hoped would never come. Each one carried weapons that made nuclear bombs look like firecrackers. Each one held a crew ready to face the unknown. "Sir, all ships report ready," his second officer said. Her name was Rita, and she had been with Blake since the beginning of the fleet project. Blake nodded slowly. The journey would take 2 years, even at maximum, faster than light speed. 2 years to reach a distress call that was 3 centuries old. Logic said they were wasting their time. Logic said everyone who sent that signal was probably dead. Blake did not care much for logic. "Send the message to all ships," he said. "Today we go to answer a call for help. We don't know what we'll find. We don't know if anyone is still alive. But we go anyway, because that's what we do. That's what makes us human." The fleet moved as one, 50 ships jumping into faster-than-light travel, leaving Earth behind. They carried 15,000 soldiers, pilots, and crew members. They carried enough weapons to crack planets. They carried hope. On the other side of the galaxy, the last members of the Council huddled in their shield worlds. The Devourers had not attacked in 50 years, but everyone knew they were still out there, waiting. The shields held, but they grew weaker each year. Eventually, they would fail. In the council chambers, the elder members discussed their options. There were not many left. "We should surrender," said one, a creature named Ven, whose species had once numbered in the billions. Now there were less than 1 million. "Perhaps they will allow us to serve them. It is better than extinction." "There is no surrender to the Devourers," another replied. This one was called Thorn, the last general of a warrior race that had fought the invaders for a century before falling. "They consume everything. They do not take prisoners. They do not make deals." "Then we wait for the end," Ven said quietly. The council chamber fell silent. No one had better answers. The galaxy had sent its cry for help into the void, and the void had remained silent. They were alone, but they were wrong, somewhere between the Council's dying worlds and the advancing Devourer fleet. 50 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel to refuel and check their systems. They had covered half the distance. 1 more year, and they would arrive. Admiral Blake stood in his private quarters, looking at a picture of Earth. He wondered if he would ever see it again. Then he put the picture away and returned to his duties. The galaxy had called for help. Humanity was coming. The Devourer scouts detected the human fleet 6 months before arrival. The information traveled back to the main swarm through channels that no other species understood. The Devourers did not use radio or light. They communicated through something darker, something that moved faster than any ship. The Swarm Collective processed the new data. 50 unknown vessels approaching from the outer rim. Small fleet. Primitive design. No match for the swarm. The Devourers had consumed 1,000 civilizations. They had faced weapons that could tear holes in space itself. They had eaten species that could move planets with their minds. These new ships did not concern them. That was their first mistake. Admiral Blake called a meeting of all ship captains when they were 3 months out from the Council worlds. The captains appeared on screens around the conference room, faces tired from the long journey, but eyes still sharp. "We've picked up something," Blake said, pulling up a star map. Red dots filled one section of the display, thousands of them, moving in patterns that looked almost like a living thing. "These are the Devourers. At least, we think they are." They matched the patterns described in the distress signal. Captain Maria of the warship Thunder leaned forward. "How many ships are we looking at, sir?" "Not ships," Blake replied. "At least not like ours. These things are organic. They're alive. And there are approximately 10,000 of them between us and the Council worlds." The room went quiet. Even through the video screens, Blake could feel the weight of that number. 10,000 against 50. Captain James of the Hammer said slowly, "Those are bad odds, Admiral." "Yes," Blake agreed, "which is why we're not going to fight them all at once." He changed the display, showing a route that curved around the main swarm. The Council worlds are here, behind massive energy shields. The Devourers have been sitting outside those shields for decades, waiting. They are patient, but they're also predictable. They always mass their forces at the point of attack. "You want to hit them from behind," Maria said, understanding dawning on her face. "Exactly. We draw some of them off, hit them hard, and run. Classic guerrilla tactics. We keep doing it until we've thinned their numbers enough to make a real push for the Council worlds." "And if they don't chase us?" James asked. Blake smiled, but there was no humor in it. "Then we make sure they have no choice." On the Council world of Haven, the last meeting of the Galactic Council was taking place. The shields were failing faster than expected. They had perhaps 5 years left, maybe less. The Eastern shield showed another power drop today, reported Elder Myra, whose people had built most of the shield technology. "We cannot repair it. We simply don't have the resources anymore." Ven looked older than usual. His species aged quickly under stress. "Perhaps it is time to accept our fate with dignity. We fought well. We survived longer than anyone expected. I will not spend my last years waiting to die," Thorne said, standing up. Despite being from a species that resembled Earth's insects more than anything else, there was something unmistakably human about his defiance. "I say we drop the shields ourselves. Go out fighting. Take as many of those monsters with us as we can." "That is suicide," Ven protested. "Yes," Thorne agreed, "but it is our choice. Better than being eaten like cattle." Before anyone could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the chamber. A young technician burst through the doors, breaking every protocol. "Elders! Something is happening. The Devourer swarm is moving." Everyone rushed to the observation deck. Through the massive windows, they could see the space beyond their shields. For 50 years, the Devourer swarm had sat there, a dark cloud of living ships that blocked out the stars. Now, part of that cloud was moving away. What are they doing? Mira whispered. The technician worked quickly at a console. They're responding to something. There's fighting on the far side of their formation. Someone is attacking them. Impossible, Ven said. There is no one left. We are the last. But even as he spoke, the sensors picked up new signatures. Ships that did not match any known design. Ships that were firing weapons the Council had never seen before. Ships that were making the Devourers angry. Elder Thorn watched the distant flashes of weapons fire and felt something he had not felt in a very long time. Hope. Someone came, he said quietly. After all these years, someone actually came. The first battle lasted 17 minutes. The human ship Vanguard led the attack, dropping out of faster-than-light travel directly behind a Devourer cluster. Captain Lisa had volunteered for the most dangerous position, and her crew knew exactly what to do. All weapons, fire at will, she ordered calmly. The Vanguard's main cannons came alive. They fired rounds that humanity had spent decades perfecting. Tungsten rods accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Missiles that could track targets through 3 dimensions. And the new weapon, the one that Earth scientists had built specifically for this mission, plasma lances. The beams cut through space, like white-hot knives. When they hit the Devourer creatures, the results were immediate. The organic ships burst apart, unable to withstand temperatures that matched the surface of stars. 50 Devourers died in the first 30 seconds. The swarm reacted quickly. Hundreds of creatures turned toward the Vanguard, moving with frightening speed. They fired back with weapons grown from their own bodies. Bioplasma that could melt steel. Acid projectiles that ate through armor. Shields holding at 70%, the Vanguard's tactical officer reported. They're swarming us, Captain. Good, Lisa said. That means the plan is working. All ships execute Phase 2. The other 49 human warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a perfect formation around the Devourer cluster. They had timed it perfectly. The creatures were focused on the Vanguard, exposing their flanks. The human fleet opened fire. As one dot, it was a massacre. Plasma lances burned through organic armor. Missiles found their targets with machine precision. The tungsten rounds punched holes clean through the Devourer ships. And the vacuum of space did the rest. 300 Devourers died in the first 2 minutes. All ships. Jump on my mark, Admiral Blake commanded from the Defiant. 3, 2, 1 mark. The entire human fleet vanished into faster-than-light travel, leaving behind nothing but debris and very angry DEVOURERs on Haven. The Council watched in stunned silence as the sensors recorded everything. They destroyed nearly 400 Devourers, the technician said, his voice shaking. In less than 20 minutes. Then they just left. Who are they? Mira asked. What species fights like that? Thorn studied the tactical data carefully. He had been a general for 200 years before the fall of his people. He knew warfare. What he was seeing should not be possible. They fight like hunters, he said slowly. Strike fast, strike hard, and escape before the enemy can respond. But the precision, I have never seen coordination like this. Every ship moved as if they shared one mind. Can they win? Ven asked quietly. Thorn did not answer immediately. He watched the replay of the battle again, noting how the unknown ships had positioned themselves, how they had timed their attacks perfectly, how they had not lost a single vessel. I do not know, he finally said, but they are giving us something we have not had in a long time. They are giving us a chance. The human fleet regrouped at a safe distance. Medical teams checked the crews for injuries. Engineers assessed damage to the ships. Admiral Blake called another meeting. Casualty report, he said. 15 wounded, none critical, Rita replied. The vanguard took the worst of it, but their shields held. Minor damage to 3 other ships. We can repair everything within 6 hours. Blake nodded. And ammunition? We used 12% of our plasma lance capacity, 20% of missiles. The tungsten rounds are barely touched. We can maintain this pace for at least 30 more engagements. Good, because we're going to hit them again in 8 hours. Different location, same tactics. Captain Lisa appeared on the screen, a bandage on her forehead, but otherwise looking fine. Sir, the Devourers are angry. They're spreading out, trying to cover more space. They know we're coming back. Let them spread out, Blake said. Spread forces are weak forces. We'll pick them apart piece by piece. Over the next month, the human fleet struck 17 more times. Each attack followed the same pattern. Jump in, destroy as many Devourers as possible. Jump out before the swarm could coordinate a proper response. Each time, the humans lost nothing. Each time, hundreds of Devourers died. The Swarm Collective was learning that it had made a terrible mistake. These new ships were not prey. They were predators. And for the first time in the Devourers' long existence, they felt something they had never experienced before. Fear. The Devourer swarm held a council of its own, though it looked nothing like the meetings of the Galactic Council. The collective consciousness merged across thousands of individual creatures, sharing thoughts and memories through biological connections that defied physics. They reviewed the battles, analyzed the tactics, studied the enemy. The conclusion was troubling. These newcomers were different from any species the Devourers had encountered. Most civilizations fought defensively, trying to protect their worlds. These strangers fought offensively, seeking battle on their own terms. The swarm made a decision. They would lay a trap. Admiral Blake studied the star charts in his quarters. They had destroyed nearly 3,000 Devourers over the past month. Good progress, but not enough. The main swarm still had 7,000 creatures, and time was running out. The Council's shields were failing. A message alert interrupted his thoughts. Blake opened it and felt his blood run cold. It was from the Council worlds, finally responding to humanity's attempts at communication. The message was simple, translated through mathematical language into English. Unknown allies, please identify yourselves. We are grateful for your assistance, but our shields will fail within 4 months. If you cannot break through the main swarm by then, all will be lost. 4 months. Blake had hoped for more time. He called an emergency meeting. All 50 captains appeared on their screens within minutes. We need to change tactics, Blake said without preamble. We've been hurting them, but not fast enough. The Council worlds will fall in 4 months if we don't break through. We could try a direct assault, suggested Captain James. All 50 ships. Straight through their center. Suicide, Captain Maria countered. Even weakened, 7,000 against 50? We would not make it halfway. What if we do not need to make it all the way? Captain Robert of the ship Fury spoke up. He was the youngest captain in the fleet, but had proven himself clever. What if we just need to break a hole in their formation? Get through to the Council worlds and add our shields to theirs? Blake considered this. The Council shields are failing because they do not have enough power. Our ships have portable fusion reactors. If we could link them to the shield network, we could buy them years instead of months, Rita finished. Maybe long enough to finish off the swarm. But we still need to get through, Lisa said. That's the hard part. Blake stared at the star map, thinking. Then he saw it. A pattern in how the Devourers had been moving. They were adapting to human tactics, spreading out to prevent concentrated attacks. But that meant their center was now weaker than their edges. They are learning from us, Blake said slowly. They expect us to hit and run. They have adapted to defend against that. So we do what they do not expect Thorne said. Everyone turned to the screen where the insectoid general had been listening. The council had finally established proper communication, and Thorne had insisted on joining the strategic meetings. Explain, Blake said. You have been teaching them that you are guerrilla fighters. Fast, mobile, unwilling to commit to direct battle. They have shaped their formation to counter this. Their edges are strong, their center is weaker. They expect you to continue your raids. And if we suddenly charge straight through their center with everything we have? Blake said, understanding. They will not be ready. By the time they react and pull forces from the edges, you will be through. Captain James shook his head. That's still 7,000 against 50, even if their center is weaker. Not 7,000, Blake said, a plan forming. What if we made them think we were raiding again? Split our forces. Send 40 ships to hit 3 different points on their perimeter. While they are distracted, the other 10 ships punch through the weakened center, Maria finished, her eyes widening. It could work. It's risky, Robert said. The 10 ships going through will face thousands of enemies. So we make those 10 ships count, Blake replied. The fastest ships, the heaviest shields, and we load them with every fusion reactor we can spare from the other 40 vessels. Over the next 2 weeks, the human fleet prepared. Engineers worked around the clock, stripping fusion reactors from 40 ships and installing them on 10. The Defiant would lead the breakthrough force, along with 9 other vessels chosen for their speed and defensive capabilities. The 40 remaining ships would carry out the largest raid yet, hitting 3 points on the Devourer perimeter simultaneously. On Haven, the Council watched the preparations through their long-range sensors. They are dividing their forces, Ven said nervously. That seems unwise. But Thorne smiled, his insect features somehow conveying satisfaction. No, they are being clever. Watch and learn, old friend. Watch and learn. The day of the final push arrived with no ceremony. Admiral Blake stood on the bridge of the Defiant, surrounded by his crew. They had been together for 3 years, counting the journey here. They had become more than a crew. They had become family. All ships report status, Blake said quietly. Rita worked through the reports quickly. All 40 raid ships are in position. All 10 breakthrough ships ready. Fusion reactors secured and primed for transfer. We are ready, sir. Blake opened a channel to the entire fleet. 50 ships. 15,000 souls. All waiting for his word. 3 years ago, we left Earth to answer a distress call, he began. A call that was 300 years old. Everyone said we were foolish. They said we would find nothing but ghosts and ruins. They were wrong. He paused, gathering his thoughts. We found people who refused to give up. We found civilizations that held on through decades of siege, hoping against hope that someone would hear them. And we found an enemy that thought itself unstoppable. Today, we show them they were wrong. Today, we break through. Some of us might not make it. The 10 ships in the breakthrough force face the worst odds. But if we succeed, we save billions of lives. We give hope back to a galaxy that had forgotten what hope feels like. Blake took a breath. Whatever happens today, know this. Humanity answered the call. We came when no one else would. We fought when victory seemed impossible. And that is something to be proud of. All ships, execute Operation Breakthrough. And may whatever gods are listening watch over us. The 40 raid ships jumped first, appearing at 3 points around the Devourer perimeter. They opened fire immediately, drawing the swarm's attention. Thousands of Devourers turned toward the attacks, exactly as planned. Breakthrough force now. Blake commanded .10 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in the exact center of the Devourer formation. For a moment, there was almost no resistance. The swarm had pulled forces away to deal with the raids. Then the Devourers realized their mistake. The Swarm Collective screened orders across its biological network. Thousands of creatures turned back, converging on the breakthrough ships. But they were too far away, and the humans were too fast. The Defiant led the charge, its shields flaring as Devourer weapons struck from all sides. The other 9 ships formed a tight formation around it, their shields overlapping to create maximum protection. "Shields at 80%, Rita called out. 70%. 60%. "Keep going," Blake said. "We are almost through." The Council worlds appeared ahead, their massive shields glowing against the darkness. Beyond those shields, billions of survivors watched and waited. On Haven, Elder Thorn gripped the railing of the observation deck. "Come on," he whispered. "You can make it." The breakthrough ships plowed through the Devourer Center like a spear through flesh. Plasma lances fired continuously, carving a path. Missiles streaked out, destroying anything that got too close. The tungsten rounds became a wall of metal, shredding organic armor. 3 Devourers died for every meter the humans advanced. "Shields at 40%, Rita reported. The Defiant shook as a massive bioplasma blast struck its port side. 30%. Distance to Council shields? Blake asked, his voice steady despite everything. 200 kilometers. "We are going to make it, sir." But the Devourers were not finished. The swarm pulled back from the raid ships, letting them go. Every creature turned toward the breakthrough force. Thousands of living weapons converging on 10 human ships. "Shields at 20%, Rita said. 10%. "Sir, we cannot take much more." "We do not need much more," Blake replied. 50 kilometers. Almost there. The Council shields opened, creating a gap just large enough for the human ships. It was the first time in 50 years they had lowered any part of their defenses. The Defiant crossed through first, followed by 8 other ships. They were battered, their shields nearly gone, their armor scarred and burning. But they had made it. The 10th ship, the Thunder, was not as lucky. Captain Maria's vessel took a direct hit just as it reached the shields. The blast tore through the ship's main reactor. "Thunder is going critical," Rita said, her voice breaking. "They are not going to make it." Blake watched helplessly as the Thunder exploded just outside the Council shields, taking 200 crew members and 300 Devourers with it. The Council shields closed, sealing the gap. For the first time in 50 years, the Devourers could not reach their prey, because now humanity stood between them. Asterisk,